This evening's broadcast is brought to you by Home Guys Home Services. Hello, and thank you for joining this broadcast of Port Angeles News. I'm your host, Arthur Wojnowski. For the remainder of our time, we will be playing our interview with City Council member Mike French.
I think a big shock for a lot of people.
It was for me as well.
Yeah.
I actually expected him to go at least to the end. So what was it like discussing this potential candidacy at home with the family?
My wife was always very supportive of whether or not I was going to run. She was just concerned about the time commitment. My parents were always really supportive. My wife kind of said that, she would be there whichever way I went. And so she kind of let me, go through my own process. But she was really supportive, and she's been really supportive. We've had my wife's parents and my parents both live in town. They're both all really involved, and so there's been a lot of extra childcare duty that they've had to pick up, especially in the campaign. But even now, some days, it's like, there's this meeting during the day, and so. But I've had really good family support, and they've been really gracious.
So reflecting on your candidate race, tell me what the experience was like for you.
The race was a big learning experience. And I had a little bit of help. One of the things that it's really intimidating, I would say, actually, on some level. But it's one of those things where, what is the story, The Emperor's New Clothes, where to the common person it seems really intimidating, but then you get in there and do it, and nobody else has some sort of special knowledge or experience doing this either. Unless, if they're an incumbent or if they've run before, they have a little bit, but, we're not like these special people that are experienced or, grizzled veterans. This is City Council in Port Angeles. Nobody has campaign managers that are, nobody is spending thousands of dollars. We didn't, the intimidation, I think, early in the campaign, it was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I should be, what issues should I be doing deep dives on, and where should I be, what should I be reading? How should I strategize? Should I do that kind of melted away early on. I got some amount of help from someone who had run some local campaigns. Her name was Nancy Beery. And she kind of gave me just some basic ground rules of, if you want to do this, here's how you do it. If you want to do this, here's how you do it. She was actually really pushed me to knock on doors, and that was really good advice. Unfortunately, like I said, my opponent ended up dropping out, right as I was planning on which neighborhoods to go to and how to do it. But having that little bit of help from Nancy was really, it helped calm my nerves quite a bit. Looking back on it, I feel like I was tuned into a lot of the key issues, but I really didn't dive as deep as I could have. There's a lot that I feel like I was just grazing the surface of the relevance, and in some cases, I think I should have been talking to the, some more of doing more, tours and talking to the people that are in the trenches, where if I wanted to talk, people would ask me about affordable housing, and I should have been having way more conversations with Kay from Peninsula Housing Authority, way more conversations with nonprofit leaders, executive directors of places like Serenity House or Peninsula Behavioral Health. And eventually I did have a lot of those conversations, but I feel like I should have had them months before. And then I would have really, had a much deeper understanding of a lot of these issues that I was being questioned on. So yeah, but the race was really fun. I feel like in a lot of ways we have really low voter turnout, you know, in our country and also in our region in some cases. But I feel like the voters that do turn out are really fairly well informed. A lot of the questions they ask at candidate forums were really incisive, really good questions. And so it was challenging, but it was a lot of fun. And I really felt like I could have, you know, with hindsight being 2020, now I'm like, boy, I didn't know anything, you know?
So would you do it again?
Oh yeah, I would definitely do it again. It was a lot of fun. I'm not saying I'm going to, you know, have another term at city council, but
Right.
Who knows what life will take. But I'm very much glad I did it.
So what advice would you give future candidates?
Just get out there. It's not as hard as it looks. It is intimidating in a lot of ways. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have faux pas, but everybody does. And the people that do have that depth of knowledge are really approachable. If you want to have a 20-minute conversation about affordable housing in Port Angeles, you know, go to a meeting at, you know, I just went to a meeting, you know, at the Clallam County Board of Health and listened to Kay from Peninsula Housing Authority talk about, you know, their new housing project that they're working on. And after the meeting, I grabbed her and had a 10-15-minute conversation with her, and she was happy to educate me on things that I wasn't 100%, you know, didn't have all the knowledge on. And so, you know, and the same has been true of almost anyone. If, you know, people are really willing to educate. People are really, you know, they're just, a lot of these, you know, like I said, members of nonprofits or, you know, whether it's directors of, at City Hall, directors of, you know, of departments, they love it when people are interested in what they do. They love talking about what they do because in a lot of times people aren't getting involved. And so the more people get involved, they love talking. They'll talk your ear off about, you know, Corey will talk your ear off about parks in Port Angeles and what they're doing on the ground and how they're making parks better. And, you know, talking to Steve from Clallam Transit, he will talk your ear off about what Clallam Transit is doing and what their vision is. So, you know, if you're interested in getting in local politics, just do it. There's tons of people that would love to talk your ear off, to educate you, to hear your vision and hear and talk about, you know, the implications. And and I everything I do, I feel like gets better by having those conversations, whether it's me running my business or whether it's me being involved in city council, kind of having these really great conversations with these public, you know, these leaders in town. It's been super rewarding.
What's it like interacting with the same people now compared to before you even thought about running for council?
Interacting, you know, I really don't feel like people treat me very differently, and I think that's good because I don't think I'm very different. I thankfully have a lot of good friends who don't let me get up on a pedestal and think that I'm so, you know, after I first got elected, they started calling me Your Majesty sarcastically, which was really good for my ego so that I didn't get too puffed up about, look at me, my big fancy city council person. But yeah, if anything, like I said, the thing that actually I was most happy about, because I think I'm the youngest member of the PA City Council. I'm not sure if Lindsay is older than me or younger. I think we're really close, but I think I might be the youngest. And I'm not super young, I'm 36, but other leaders, regardless of their age, have just been really, you know, they don't treat me like a kid. They'll talk to me about the issues. They'll just, you know, let me have it. And so that's been good that they just treat me like any other councilman, and they just want to talk about their issues, and they just want to, like, you know, educate me and hear how we're going to network. And so yeah, I don't really feel like people treat me very differently, and that's good.
What's it like interacting with senior council versus the new freshman council?
Senior council versus freshman council. I've been very impressed. So I really am, I think we're lucky because having 4 new council members, you know, that's a big change in the council. And we get a little bit of training. You know, we went down to an Association of Washington Cities training. We've been to 1 or 2 of those. A lot of that training is focused on just like what the legal landmines are, making sure that you understand what the standards are for public officials in the state of Washington. That's good. But, you know, having 4 new council members is, I feel like it was a little, you know, it's scary. And to have these senior council members that were, I think, really good public servants that, you know, have this history of serving the city has been good for me as a young council member. To have Mayor Brooke, who has this long history with the city, to have Sherry Kidd, who has, you know, been with the city for years. It's great to have them as a resource. It's great to have them as an example. And so, you know, I've told Michael Meredith a couple times, I love his demeanor on council. He is exactly the kind of guy that I like, where he just says what he thinks, he just shoots it out there, and he doesn't pretty it up. He is blunt, and I love that. And that's a really great way to just get to the heart of issues. He's incisive. And so I've had a great time getting to know some of these senior council members. Sherry Kidd, I got to know through the campaign a little bit, and she's been super supportive. I think she's a great ambassador for Port Angeles. She clearly loves this community. And then Mayor Brooke, we got to know, she kind of helped with some of our, you know, young council members, give us a little bit of a primer on the city's comprehensive plan, which is kind of the major document that oversees how our city government works. That's, you know, was created as a collaboration between the citizens, the city staff, and the council from years past, that we update every now and then. And she kind of helped us, and it was great because it's a pretty daunting document in many ways, where you're reading all these different policies, and she kind of gave us a little bit of a crash course in it. And so that was a really great way. That was before we were sworn in, and so we were trying to figure out, how do you be a council person? And that gave us a good overview of what the city does, and, you know, what it says it wants to be doing too. And you know, that's a lot of times that's about priority setting, because we have this big document that says, here's our vision for Port Angeles, and you can read through it and say, hey, you know, this isn't happening. The comprehensive plan says that we want to do this, but I don't see that happening. And then you can get into those priorities. Is that something that we really as a council believe needs to be done? Let's talk about that in a priority setting. And we're going to do that later as a new council. We're kind of still working on the old council's priority setting is still their strategic plan. But so that process, Sissy was really gracious with her time to kind of, like I said, give us that crash course in the comprehensive plan. And so that was really helpful. And Sherry has been really generous with her time. And she was, you know, with the 8th Street bridges, that was this really weird transition, because the issue came up of the 8th Street bridge screens after I was elected. Well, I mean, it's been an issue for years, but it really came up. I think it was after I was elected, but before I was sworn in. And so it was the issue, there was this handoff that was going to have to happen between the old council and the new council. And Sherry Kidd was really great at getting those conversations to happen, so that you know, we understood the issue, and you know, we understood how, you know, and we thankfully all of the new council was really proactive at going to those council meetings and listening to those open public meetings when they were talking about the actions that were going to be taken. And so we were able to really transition that smoothly, so that it didn't get delayed because of our actions. We are actually able to get it down to the state, so that this, you know, we get those grants in place, get that money lined up, and get those barriers up as soon as possible, which is we're still waiting on. But so that was an example, I think, of really good leadership by those senior council members in that transition period, to get us up to speed, to understand, you know, because that comprehensive plan is a huge document. Like I said, it's really daunting. We have that packet that every week that there's a city council meeting, you can either, it's online or they print it out for the council members. And when they were going through the review of the comprehensive plan, they put it in the packet, and the packet was just, it was immense. It was twice as big as it usually is. And, sitting there reading through it, it gets, I did a quick read of it, and I felt like I missed half of it. And so it was great to have those senior council members kind of take us under their wing and lead us into that transition. So that was really helpful.
Have you sought feedback from council or other staff referring to how they think you're performing?
That's actually a great idea. I haven't really sought feedback, and that's something that I think I should do. And that's something that I always want to evaluate myself and make sure that I'm doing my job as a council person, as a representative of the citizens. But yeah, we've only been in this job for a few months, and it's hard. It's something where I want to hold myself to a high standard, and so that's something that I think is a great idea to do, but I haven't done it yet, and I will definitely consider that. I think it's great.
Next page.
Yeah.
Who do you find the most challenging to work with on council, and why?
Who do I find the most challenging to work with council, and why? I think the person I know the least well is probably Michael Meredith. And I think one of the reasons that it's challenging is just because our schedules, I don't think, line up well. He works like kind of a 9-to-5 job, it seems like, and I work very different hours. And I'm always busy on the weekends, and I think we would probably get along really well. We're both really blunt people, and but so far I haven't had really the chance to connect with him and get to know him on a personal level or on the council level.
Who do you respect the most on council, and why?
Who do I respect the most on council, and why? Well, I would say I respect a lot of my fellow council members. Try to be as diplomatic as possible. I really respect our Deputy Mayor Kate a lot, and she is someone who has consistently just shown me that she has really high standards for herself. She values I don't know how to say this, but she values these I want to get it right, because it's not consensus, but she values those the conversations that get you there. She is just a person that makes connections with people really quickly and easily, and that's something that in my life, being kind of this cold analytical person, I've not always been good at. And so she's someone that it didn't take me long to really respect her. She actually ran against a friend of mine, and so it was really hard. It was like this guy that I think is a really smart guy, Travis, who I think would have done a great job as a council person too. And Kate, this person that I really didn't know that well, but I got to know really well throughout the course of the campaign and since. And I feel bad for Travis, but Port Angeles could not have lost that race. And so Kate has just this ability to connect with people that I am kind of jealous of on some level. And we've had a couple of different moments already as a council where we've had tension, and that happens. Sometimes we disagree on issues. That happens. We haven't. All of our votes have not been 7-0. That's fine. I think we have a mature enough group of people that we understand that that's the way it is sometimes. But Kate has always been a great facilitator during those kind of moments. She's always made sure that we are. She's very professional, and so I actually had pushed her when we were talking about leadership on council. I pushed her to say, would you be deputy mayor, because I really think that you would be great at it. And she thankfully said yes, even though she already doesn't have a lot of time being a mother and a busy person as it is. And she thankfully said yes, and I'm really glad that we selected her for deputy mayor, because so far she's done a great job. Just like I said, and those leadership positions, I really also have a lot of respect for our mayor, Sissy Brooke. She's been on the council for a long time. She was on the council, I will say a bit about, just for the previous question, we talked about senior council members. I have a lot of respect for our senior council members, just seeing the kind of strife that they have gone through in their terms. We've had some rough years as a city with respect to our council. We've had some really contentious debates. Those debates are mostly resolved, but as public figures, it's hard to remain, amicable after some of those kind of moments of tension. And so I have a lot of respect for our mayor also for, retaining her sense of optimism and retaining her sense of community through really some tough debates. So I think we picked really great leadership. I'm really glad at how our mayor and deputy mayor votes fell, and I have a lot of respect for both of them.
Well, you kind of started going into my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How did you feel about Councilmember Dexter becoming deputy mayor when traditionally the role went to a senior council member?
That was a kind of an out of the box solution that we had, because we actually had a couple different people that had expressed an interest in leadership, and I wanted to find a balance. I think that was a way for us as the new council to have kind of, even though if it's somewhat symbolic, kind of a place at the table on some level. We have kind of, I think, in the way I see it, and I don't want to characterize it in any negative way, but I feel like we have kind of more than just one divide between senior council and junior council. Junior council being the 4 newly elected people, senior being those 3 that had already been serving at least at least half of a term. But we also kind of had a generational divide. And, we have myself and Michael Meredith and Lindsay Sherman-Warren and Kate, who are all kind of a younger generation, a new generation, and I gotta give credit to Mike Meredith too, that, he was, one of the younger guys on council for a few years before us too. And I think it's good that we have that kind of age diversity. And a lot of times in my lifetime, it seems like city council has kind of been less diverse as far as ages. And I don't think that's always good. I don't think there's anything wrong with being older, obviously. They have a lot of wisdom and a lot of insight, and in some cases a lot of history. And that, history can mean relationships, and those are really valuable to council, to have that 20 years of getting to know the people in the, in the positions of power. But I also thought it was kind of cool to have that, one of our younger council members in that leadership position, as well as one of our junior serving members. And Kate was just a perfect fit for that. She has a really even temperament. She's someone who, like I said, really values not just consensus, but the process of consensus, of, that healthy open debate. And she has, I think, really done a great job in that role, especially since, in certain council meetings, our mayor has to recuse herself, not regularly, but somewhat. Just because she works for the Lower Iowa Clallam tribe, and we do have a lot of interactions with, which is great. I think I think Kate has done a great job.
What are your political goals?
What are my political goals? I mean, that's a tough question because I don't know necessarily. A lot of goals and motivations are kind of something that I can talk about together, I guess, because I was motivated to run for political office, not out of some end goal that I want to be in Congress or something like that, but just a motivation to be involved, because I thought my views, not to be too egotistical, but I thought my views merit, I thought it was good that I would be involved, that I thought my views were at least had enough validity that I shouldn't sit on the sideline and complain. I should get in the ring. And actually, Teddy Roosevelt has a really great quote that uses that kind of metaphor of the boxer in the ring. That the boxer in the ring doesn't necessarily listen to the criticisms of the people that aren't willing to get in the ring. And so I wanted to get in the ring. I wanted to, serve Port Angeles, but also I wanted to, have a voice. So, my goal, I think, is more of a vision for a prosperous Port Angeles, and in an incremental way to get to that vision. I want to, I think that I've become kind of a city design planner nerd just throughout the last year or so, reading a lot and listening to podcasts and stuff. And there's a lot of ways in which our region is plagued by the same problems that a lot of other municipalities see, and that is characterized kind of by suburban sprawl, in which we've lost neighborhoods. And instead of having neighborhoods that are vibrant, that are mixed use, where there's houses and businesses and, churches and schools, all in little, self-contained groups, we've instead said, no, all the houses will be way over there. They're all gonna drive into the central place where all the services and businesses are, and then they'll drive back. And so a lot of cities, and this is something, like I said, you can see all over America, a lot of cities traded that sustainable model of the neighborhood for the growth of the suburban kind of big highway that goes through the middle of your town. And you can see that in Port Angeles, especially with the eastern urban growth area, where it's just a big highway with a bunch of businesses along the way. And then, if you want to walk anywhere, good luck. You're gonna have to cross a 6-lane highway. If you want to bike anywhere, make sure you have a lot of lights flashing and reflectors, because the cars are going by, they're zooming by. And, so I see a lot of that had happened throughout a very long time in our region. And I want people to at least hear about a different vision, that we don't have to live in that kind of a city. We can have vibrant neighborhoods. We can start planting those ideas now in how we design roads and how we plan for where services will go, and so that's a really long-term vision. I'm not going to be able to single-handedly in my tenure at the city redesign the city. I'm not going to redesign the city. Like, that's not going to happen. We all know that's fine. I shouldn't be the guy that redesigns the city. I don't have any expertise in that. But I can start planting those ideas of neighborhoods. And those are something I think everybody, I live in a place where we have some of those elements, and those are really positive elements. My son's neighborhood school is 5 blocks away. And some days we walk to school, or we ride our bikes to PTO meetings in the evenings, and that's a great thing about where we live. We live 5 miles, 5 minutes from a trail that we can ride all over the city. That's a great thing about where we live. Those are elements that are really positive, and there's a lot of elements that can tie into that and make our neighborhoods even stronger, make our city even stronger. And as a complete extra bonus, a lot of those same things actually increase economic development, increase taxable revenue for the city itself. By keeping expanding and keep on going out to the sprawl, we actually end up with less tax revenue per acre than you would get in a dense, multi-mixed, multi-use neighborhood. So anyway, I could go on about city planning for a very long time.
It's your moment.
Yeah.
It's your 15 minutes. So, how will Port Angeles be different after your term?
Like I said, I'm an incrementalist. I don't think Port Angeles is going to be radically different after my term. But I just want to highlight the voices of those people that are already working, because it's not like I had all these good ideas and came in and I'm changing the city. There's a lot of people working that are really smart people that have had good ideas, that have been trying to, about 10 years ago, we had a group of architects come to town, and it's this big acronym that I've learned. It's the American Institute of Architects Sustainable Design Assessment Team. And they came and did a big study of Port Angeles, and a bunch of architects, and they spent a lot of time, they had a lot of community meetings, talked to community leaders, talked to citizens, and then they released this 80-page report. And ever since then, a lot of people in our region have been looking to that report for good ideas. And there's a lot of good ideas in there. And you can see in projects around town some of those
This concludes this broadcast of Port Angeles News. Until next time.